There you go. Good morning and welcome to Sunday. It's the 28th of June 2015 and we're ready for another day of craft live on the only craft channel in the world. And I have the lady who knows more about sewing and stitching and quilting than you ever need to know. What she's forgotten, I tell you, the stuff you've forgotten.
You picked me up brilliantly.
Always.
Yes.
This is Jenny Raymond, ladies and gentlemen, and she's here every 5 weeks or so.
Yes. When I'm free.
Jenny's classroom. And your classroom is all about teaching, because here at Crack and Craft, we sell some lovely things.
We do indeed.
Don't we?
But people want to know what to do with them.
Absolutely.
And you, in your wisdom, allow me time to actually teach properly.
You like that, don't you?
I do indeed.
I
can pontificate.
She's a giver. Yes. Now then, what we want to do before we do that, before I go over there and sit down and do nothing for 3/4 of an hour, which is absolutely awesome. I'm just telling you how it is. Now, I'll be prepping for the next show.
Of course, yes, with your book and porridge.
I've done my porridge, love.
You've done your porridge, right.
What we're going to do first of all is take you through... I've had them. See what I mean, Steve? 8:02 and she's off already. We're going to take you through some of the lovely products first of all. So if you'd like to jot some things down, these are some of the things you're going to be using in your demonstration.
They are indeed.
And what are we talking about today, Jenny?
Right, what we're doing today is a cover-up job.
Oh, is it?
Okay, we've got two different sorts of covers we're going to do.
Okay.
We have accoutrements to make other sorts of covers, but basically I'm going to explain how you can make a custom-made cover for your sewing machine.
Nice.
All right?
Yeah.
And this actually isn't meant for this machine because it's meant for my machine at home, but in fact it fits it rather
because they're all much of a muchness, aren't they?
Much of a muchness. And we're going to cover up a teapot.
Oh! People have often said to me, I'm about as useful as a chocolate teapot.
You see?
Look at that, you see? We've had to cover that because it said Cadbury's on it. Now, the thing is...
you have me stick tape all over it. You rotter, you know what I should do with the hat, don't you? I shall ram it on your head. There you are, you see, girls, he can wear... Do we all have this? That's it. OK. You do look actually rather good in it. Thank you, I'll have it back now.
You messed my hair up.
Yes, so I'm really sorry about that. Yes. Actually, it's fairly stiff.
I'm going to get my stylist back in again now. Anyway, Gerard, hair. Now then.
OK, so we're doing that. We also got to cover up for the caddy.
Oh,
so
have we?
When we go down the counter, we must show them the caddy.
What, the wheelie caddy?
The wheelie caddy, because
the wheelie,
you want
big
it to
caddy.
look pretty.
Oh, of course we
and
want
my idea will work on the wheelie caddy as well.
Ladies and gentlemen, stay tuned. Jenny Raymond is in the building, and the classroom starts in just a few moments' time. But let's crack on. Right. First of all, what have you got for us first? Now, product-wise, we're going to need fabric, aren't we?
We're going to need fabric,
yeah,
right.
And this is beautiful.
This is cracking fabric. It's absolutely superb. It's 100% cotton. It's American fabric, 2 metres in each one. And for 2 metres, if people are kind of, oh, well, how big's 2 metres? 2 metres is taller than me and wider than me.
Yeah, that's taller than me, actually.
Yes.
Because I'm 1.82.
Yeah, well, there you are. See,
oh,
so
look,
it's that
huge.
To the floor. They can't see it. So we go sideways. Sideways.
Let's go sideways.
Sideways.
That's a lot of material.
That's a lot of material. And that is at an amazing price.
Wow.
Yes.
Hang on. $13.49
yes,
for club members.
You just got to buy it.
Oh, well, just buy it. There you go. There's one of those things, we don't like to be rude, just buy that just for 13 quid. That's two
But you see, what is
fabric.
wonderful, a dress.
You can make a dress
curtains, covers, patchwork, back of your quilts, anything.
And you're going to have bits and pieces left over.
And it's great for what I want to show on the show, which is how you do broderie purse.
Oh, OK.
And we'll explain all about that later. So
now then,
fantastic.
Let me give you the details. It's 347711. I've got to do something for 5 minutes. It's 13.49. It's brand spanking new today. Choice of orange or purple. So we've got sort of like like a pansy design on here.
And that's
really.
lovely as well.
Beautiful, isn't it? In the
same
purple.
amount. So another 2 metres of that.
Now then, we've got the cup. We'll show that in a minute.
Yes, we will. Yep. Yes.
OK. Now then, fabric-wise, we're going to move on because we've got another set for you, another couple of options. This is really nice as well.
So these go with that one.
Yep.
Or it goes with that one.
Oh, clever.
You see? And the orange
goes So we never
goes
put
with
the blue and the purple together?
This one.
Yes, of course.
You see?
Yes.
So you could mix and match.
Blenders.
You could possibly, because they are complementary colours, although it does squeak a bit. But
now
blue,
then,
orange, 2 metres again, same quality cotton, must have.
Different item number, 347714. It's brand new today again, 13.49 for club members. The Blossom, is that the Blossom fabric? Is that the same one? OK then, that's the one. And remember, all online at crankcraft.tv. Now, this is floral print and that's Blossom, just so you distinguish those when you're online, but you'll see the pictures anyway. Now, let's talk about cutting and measuring, all the important stuff before you start sewing.
Yeah, absolutely. I am going to be using today this little square in particular because it's a nice, handy-sized square for cutting any size of measurement up to 6.5 inches.
OK.
Now, anybody who's getting the quilting world needs to have a rotary cutter ruler and a square. You please do not cut along metal rulers or anything else. The acrylic will save your blade. So we've got little square and we've got the big classic ruler.
I've seen this hanging in many a craft room over the last few days because we've had craft room selfies.
Have we?
All over yesterday from people's houses. We can do it again today, but the amount of those I saw hanging on the walls was fabulous.
Well, what I'm hoping is I'm back on the show tomorrow, so my Caddy cover and my machine cover is so quick. Hopefully we'll get some pictures tomorrow afternoon at 3 o'clock.
By the way, can I just ask, I didn't ask about the beginning of the show, is there instructions? Is there somewhere I can get... OK, we'll talk about that in a second. OK. Annie's just said to me, coffee. We'll do that in a minute. Right.
OK, right. Okay, now, I needed a template. I needed a motif.
Yes.
And one of the things that's really hard to draw is a heart. So here we've got a heart template that has 5 different sizes of hearts. Right, from small up to considerably larger.
That's a great idea. I like you used to do at school, draw it in half and then in a piece of paper and then...
flip it over, absolutely.
Right.
So you can have half a heart or you can have a whole. In fact, if you put 4 of them together, you get really rather a nice petally flower. So heart template, great. And with it, we've got the circle template. In one's house...
They come together?
They come together.
OK.
There's never enough plates. And this one will give you all the sizes of circles. So you've got a range of circles. It's great for your yo-yos, Suffolk puffs, call them what you will. It's great for circles. It's great for cutting out 2 narrow circles, so scrapbooking, anything like that.
Do you know, this brings me to the point with crafting. We often say buy a machine or buy a die, do something, the core shapes to cut circles because they're the hardest thing to cut. That would take itself obviously into fabric. So this is an absolute essential. You don't want to cut around a dinner plate, do you?
You don't. You can do quarter circles, half circles, and indeed, just as you said before, flip it over.
And $33.29 means you're getting both of those at a really low price and a club price. 268-158 is your item number for that one. And it's very busy already for that. We've got people checking out that item, those 2 items already. So they're listening.
You've got to have your heart
and
you've got to have your circle. Good, I'm glad. Keep listening.
Listening to Miss. Now, Miss, what do we have now?
We have various notions here. Now, this is a notions bundle that comes with 2 sorts of pins, and believe you me, you need 2 sorts of pins. Flower pins that I like particularly because they're great when you're working with a ruler because they're flat.
Aren't they? Yes.
These ones are particularly nice because they're easier in some ways, sort of weave through the fabric, and I use them for sort of pinning smaller bits together, etc.
Are they ironable?
Those are ironable. Those are not always so ironable.
There you go. That's
These ones are also sewable through.
It's almost like I listened in the past,
You're getting the hang of it, aren't you?
Yes.
OK, 1/4 inch ruler.
Perfect.
Use this a lot, particularly when I want to draw 1/4 inch for perhaps my quilting or something like that, or Marcus Emelans. Now, you may well find that one of the patterns we've got coming up shortly requires bias binding around it. Now, sometimes it's really hard to push the needle through the layers. This will help.
Leather thimble.
Leather thimble, because it'll protect your fingers. And we've also got on there, I know Anne's going to show us on a still, is the template plastic.
Fabulous stuff.
Because there are many times, and again in tomorrow's show, you'll see where you need to have your own template plastic.
Great value for little things you think you don't need, but in actual fact, when you haven't got them, you realise that you need them.
You have to have them.
$11.99 down to $10.79. This is from Simplicity, the flower head pins, the bundle including the seam acrylic pins, quilter's template, and the leather thimble, 298-533. Now, when you want to pack something out, when you want to give it some...
You've got to wad it.
You've got to give it some wadding.
Yes.
37855 is your item number for this. The Hobbs heirloom. And this is...
I'm not going to take it out.
No. But this is sort of high-end stuff, isn't it?
This is 120 by 120. It's a big piece of fluff.
And where would I use this then?
You would use it in your quilts. You would use it in your tablecloths, your table mats, anywhere where you wanted some extra garments and things. The nice thing about this particular wadding is it's great to quilt on by hand or machine. It's wonderful. It washes very well, and you can piece it. So there's no waste. You can stick bits together, lie them butt up to each other, zigzag across, and you just can use
This doesn't go all lumpy when I wash it, then? Because it goes into the corner of my work.
No, it doesn't.
Oh, that's what we want.
It's a really good, it's a premium wadding from a top company, Hobbs Art.
It's
Fantastic.
80% cotton.
Yes.
And 20% polyester. Good investment?
Very good
There
investment.
you go.
It's the one I use all the time now.
$31.49. Get it in the stash, and then you know you've got it. If you see a project by Jenny and the kids, or get your heirloom, sort of a cotton blend out, you'll know what it is. $31.49, 307-855. Now, a lot of the time, it's all about the pattern, isn't it?
It is.
It's about what to make, and sometimes what to make doesn't have to be a huge project, and a gift can be something really simple but amazing. And what we've got for you next is Simplicity. We've got the tablet, phone, e-reader, and carry case pattern bundle. So these are right up to date. This is bringing sewing, which has been around for hundreds of years, right up to date.
Yes.
Because everyone's got a tablet and a phone and all
And
sorts of
you
things,
absolutely have to have them. For instance, instance, we've got here various e-readers and tablets on that pattern. Again, more covers. This is a cover-up job. This is what the classroom is all about. Here's the one where I took the tea cosy from, the pattern on there. You've got all the other covers for all those other appliances. And this is just in there because, OK, it is a cover-up job. You put things inside it to conceal it. Now, the reason why you need a tablet cover
and I just happen to have the one from the studio.
To have one, put it in there, then you protected
That's really
it.
Nice.
Also means that it doesn't get so easily pinched because people don't recognise it as being a tablet.
Really good point.
So it can be in your
Security
bag.
point
It's a
of
bit
view,
of
yes.
security. It will, if you drop it inadvertently, it's in its case. So having some form of tablet cover, e-reader cover, anything like that is very... And you can personalise it. You know, this is mine. I know it's mine.
Well, the current Mrs. Wilson would like that.
Would she?
Yeah, because I think, you get that sort of thing, it's yours, it's personal.
Yes.
That's what you know something that isn't the same as you buy in the shops. So all 4 of those.
You could buy Mrs. Wilson the patterns.
Well, that would assume we'd get married.
Ah.
Right, 347667. But it's my polite name.
Oh, I see. Right.
Yes, 20 quid for those, or £18 if you're a club member. Now then, moving on, because we want to get on to, because we've got 15 minutes,
right.
and I'm very aware of the time.
Hang on, you have to reveal me.
Yes, hang on, just wait, big reveal. Give you time to go. Now, what have we got here then, Jenny? Tell us about this.
We have templates.
Okay.
We have plastic templates that are great for doing applique.
Applique.
Yes,
298. I've been saying it wrong. I call it applique.
Well, you can call it applique.
Can I?
Yes,
Oh,
like
thank
scone and scones.
Oh, is it?
Yes.
So it's not wrong?
No,
Just different?
it's just different.
Yeah.
Yep.
Like me and you.
Yes, and you and I.
Oh, boom, boom. 298692. Long, funky and curved. There you go. We said it. 3 templates here. And these are little things that, just add that touch of
Well,
personality.
they're easy. They have a variety of sizes. I know you can't see on the back here, but
there's a
there are
heart
a
here.
whole load of hearts. Now, those hearts are used as flutterbys. Now am I allowed to stand on my stool?
Right, hang on. Yeah. Madam, may I?
OK, this skirt had a slight accident with the pocket. So
Right.
the pocket had to come off, and I was stuck with, what do I do with the holes? So I
you had holes in
covered
it?
Yes.
So you covered
I'm
it
not
that way?
lifting the skirt up to show you the holes, not on air.
And it...
Perhaps quietly later, but there are holes under there, all right? So that is
She
the
may be
butterfly.
watching.
Look,
Just cut.
look, see? OK, flutterby.
So it brings a whole new meaning to when I say go stick a butterfly on
That's
it.
right. You see, you can stick a butterfly on it.
Look at that. And double denim. I like the way you're pulling that off.
Well, it's good, isn't it?
Oh, I like
You
it,
see?
yes.
And I can stand on a chair. I will accept
Thank
your
you,
hand
darling.
stand
Thank
up.
you,
Thank you.
darling. Lovely. Now, if you want to be able to do that, these are patterns. It isn't just about quilts and all that sort of things. It's things like personalising your clothes. I like that idea.
Yes,
Yeah,
you see?
you see. If you want to get those, they're only £10.99. But actually, they're £9.89, it says on your screens right now, doesn't it?
And they're really very useful.
I've got to move quickly because I've got to think like I need a fly in my ear. And it's worse up this end, but it's better up that end. So I'm
Right.
going to move on quickly.
OK, more templates.
Oh.
These are different. These are leaves.
OK.
These are leaves that you can create flower shapes with. And again, I'm using these when I come to do the teapot cover. So this is a narrow leaf, this is a wide leaf, and this is a round leaf. Now, I know you can draw a leaf, but you can't be consistent.
Right.
So if you're working on some form of fusible web, or you want to do it in felt or anything like that, this is a template you just simply draw round. You can use them for painting, you can use them for stencils. They won't break. It's a plastic. Neat little job, that.
Detail shows your level of competency, doesn't it?
Yes.
Detail,
It
because I
does.
think that's
and
where...
repetition of the same shape doesn't look quite so handmade. I know it's handmade, but you need to be a professional handmader.
Thank you very much, Jenny Raymond. Now then, as we move on, detail. The reason I moved on, because this is one of those products, again, that's all about the detail.
Yes.
When you're finishing, you're making seams, you're ironing, you're flattening down your seams. When you're putting your patterns together, you can tell I've been watching. 192527, the Clover Mini Iron 2 is almost, if you can afford to go for it, a little essential again,
It
isn't
is, because it's light, it's small, it's easy to take to class, it's great to have beside you on the sewing machine. It comes with the little stand, or if you get just simply a piece of corrugated card, you can lay it on the corrugated card, and that makes both a little ironing board as well as somewhere to rest it on. So, neat tool for getting into those nooks and crevices and cracks and crannies.
And particularly when lots of fabric is folding and coming to points, and a lot of
you can get
you can
right
into the
into
point
it,
and make
yes.
it absolutely precision. 35.99. It's very, very busy lines, and I know why. Because what's going to happen? It's all going to stop ordering when you start work.
I know.
So please order and check
Grab
out
the
now, because in the
fabric.
next couple of minutes, Jenny's going to start her demonstration. About half an hour's worth of demos, and remember, you'll be able to get the pattern for that a little bit later on. Now,
They can buy while I'm prattling.
well, I know they won't.
I get recorded, you know.
Exactly. You're recording
Yes,
legend.
and then played slow.
You are like that. That's the one I like. What of this bit?
Yes, okay. Let's get through that bit a bit fast.
Now, I like this.
These are fabulous
I like
fabrics.
these, Jenny.
They are the top quality fabrics. These are the Tilda fabrics. Yes, I know they're more expensive than other fabrics, but they
So
are
what?
so
That's why I want them.
worth it.
Because I want them.
I mean, think about if you were going to make covers with the simplicity pattern.
It's beautiful.
Just look at the
If I
delicacy
took these
of those.
home,
Yes.
if these happen to go
Mrs.
missing,
Wilson, who isn't really, would be absolutely love it.
don't start. It's a bad,
Yes.
it's a sore subject.
Is it? Yes.
Do you know what we're known as? Because they're two different. We're Wilmers. Because we've mixed the names up for the moment. So we're
right.
Wilmers.
Well, a bit like the Ments, because I was for some time not married to Mr. Diamond, and I'm a Rayment, and we were meant for each other.
Oh, that was just amazingly.
Quite.
No, but it is. No, meant for each other. Oh, he was number.
For my fourth man.
Fourth.
Yes, sorry.
Right, okay. The thing is, we
Get it right
we don't
sometime.
shy away, do we? We're grown-ups.
Face
Everyone's
it.
upset. Everyone
Face it.
upstairs going, "Oh, Dean, don't be so rude."
No, I
It's
don't mind.
life,
I
isn't
have
it?
no
I know.
problems with that.
Only reason I talk about it because Jenny does.
Yes, of
if
course
you
you do.
didn't, I
Yes,
would.
yes.
Well, I would. No, the thing is, look, have a look at the last
Yes.
few here. Look,
Go
look,
on.
look, look. Every single one of
Look
these.
at that one. That is so pretty. Pretty.
I
Okay.
like to,
Okay.
and as you know, from a man who doesn't do any sort of fabric or something, I actually can appreciate this because
Yes.
home decor at home, I get quite involved with it
Yes.
at home.
And that is soft, it's
happiness
pretty.
is homemade.
Yes.
I mean, what an amazing little bundle of fabric. If you can afford to, yes, I know it's more, but the
It's
reason why I go for
9
stuff that's more
backquarters.
because people shy away from it because it's expensive, and that's why I want it because I want it to be different.
Yes.
Maybe you're the
Yes.
same. We've got an opportunity for sexy flexi pay.
Sexy flexi pay, which
Sexy
means you can put
flexi.
everything else in the basket.
Hello.
Hello.
2 flexis here, so you can split this in half. £21.50 if you're not a club member. If you're a club member, 19.35. Well, there was a year. 42.99 though. Remember, if you aren't join the Crate and Craft Club. That is beautiful. It is so beautiful. And then finally, bit of splash of colour for summer.
Yes,
Have a look
right.
at this.
Another
This is
2
nice.
metres
I can
of-
see a dress here again.
Yes, so can I.
Can't you? A nice
This is-
summer dress.
My mate Wendy Garden would wear one of this.
She would.
Yes, she would.
She would. Is there enough fabric?
It is 2 metres here.
Oh, so when I
we-
say that,
but
actually,
then
that's
I
wrong. Let me
think-
rephrase that, because you're going to think, you said a dress for when you go, and I said there's enough fabric. I didn't mean that. I meant for a dress in general, because that
Yes,
doesn't look like a
yes.
lot of fabric
Yes,
for
it
a
is.
dress.
And there's enough ample there for
Really?
anybody. Yes.
It just shows you, doesn't it? Because I think the layman would think, I need yards and yards of the stuff.
Look. Dress,
Oh,
okay?
Hang on.
All
Hang on.
right.
Come down here, because I like it low.
All right. There you are. It's nearly a ball gown now.
I like it low.
All right?
Yeah.
You could have that as a sarong.
Or very sarong.
Yes.
So
Right,
wrong.
Come with the Caddy to do.
Nothing right about that at all. Look, while we're there, if you'd like to get that, £13.49, 346 137. There's the fabrics are flying. Can I just say, early doors, we're at 8:17. So
Yes,
better crack on.
yes.
Just
Right,
very quickly,
Caddy.
mention
Okay.
the Caddy because you're a fan.
Yes, because, well, I've got my covered Caddy here.
Oh, look at Jenny's covered Caddy. Can
Come
you
to
get
my
a covered
covered
Caddy, Stevie?
Okay.
Oh, look,
Look.
new fabric. Look, she's covered hers. Cheeky little sneaky peek. Look.
You see. It's rather like lifting her skirt up.
Stop it, Jenny.
You see.
It's 8 in the morning. Cover yourself up, please. It's 18
Right.
minutes past. We've got to get on.
Right,
Oh, now you're stuck. Now, not in a rush.
This is the purple fabric, and the technique I'm going to use in a minute for doing
Got
the
it caught on your thing there. You've got it caught there. Put it down.
You see?
A bit of decorum, thank you.
That's it, cover
Right,
up.
so you could make that with today's. You could readjust
yes,
it to make
yes,
this.
you can
If
do
you want
anything.
one of these, they're amazing. They're on wheels. It's room for everything, not just for. Not just for.
And it's 32 inches to there. I had an email from somebody who wanted to know.
32 inches from
32
there.
inches
It's like
from
my
the ground
putter.
to the handle. You see?
I've got a 32
It's
inch
comfortable.
putter.
Golly gosh.
Oh, one of the best lines this year, and everyone's missed it. 330598. The Deluxe Craft Storage Caddy is something that you should really consider because if you're going to craft classes, etc., everything's in individual boxes which are individually sealed, waterproof, and I have to say, £99 gives you 3 flexis. So today, if you're going for fabrics, you're going for templates, etc.
Pointing that. The more and more I teach, the more places I go to, in the room come these.
Really?
But people don't always want in their sitting room one of those sitting looking like craft caddy, which is why you need a
cover. And on that
Yes.
very specific note, Jenny disappears. On that specific note, we are going to talk about what we're going to be making today. Oh, she's back again. Go to our website, craftcraft.tv, where you'll find all the details. We've got Pick of the Week, we've got exclusives on there, sewing, we have all types of crafting, you know, paper crafting and your scrapbooking. Now, if you go to sewing, okay, in the classroom, click on in the classroom, And that's what we're going to be doing today. There you go, in the classroom with Jenny. But you need to download... You just print it off, not download,
Yes,
print it
just
off.
print it off, yep.
Just print it off and you'll be able to do what Jenny's showing you today, the Quilting classroom, for the 28th of June. OK, that's enough from me. I'm going to leave you with Jenny, and she's going to take you through the next half an hour. Please stay with us. Push record right now, because my bit's finished. and also, when you're on the website, can I just say, if you push all, view all products, the products that Jenny's going to be using are on the website.
Yes.
So rather you go and finding them, when you're in that section, you're printing off your patterns, etc. All you simply do is go to all products, and that will then show you the stuff that's on the show.
Right.
Ready?
OK,
I'll see you
go
in a
and have a
minute.
sit down.
Bye-bye, done.
Not
Jenny.
Glasses, squiffy, I don't know. Right, OK, we're going to do a cover-up job. And I was racking my brains as to what to do, and I thought what I really need in this life is a sewing machine cover, because my machine at home just sits there, collects dust, or I chuck a half-finished quilt over it. So I thought it would be a really good idea to make a cover. Now, this cover is not actually intended for this particular machine. It is, in fact, intended for another one. And the method I'm going to explain will make your cover fit any machine you like. When we've had a go at the cover, we're going to use Simplicity pattern and make a tea cosy, because this is another thing. We have a daughter-in-law who loves her tea and a teapot, and we've never got a tea cosy. We have a range of teapots, so I've now made a tea cosy. And I've slightly digressed in the pattern and made it a little bit easier. The pattern has binding around the edge, but with Raymond's special method, you don't need any binding. So we're going to be doing that. But the major reason for doing this show is to talk a bit about doing applique, both bonding it on and stitching round, and indeed doing something called broderie purse. I'll explain why it's called broderie purse when we get to that stage. But the orange fabric will be absolutely superb, as indeed the purple one, for cutting out specific flowers, laying them onto a background, bonding them down and stitching them in place. So that is to come. I'm just going to put the teapot carefully to one side so I don't break it. Now, when I decided to make the cover, I thought, right, oh, it's easy peasy. All I've got to do is measure the machine, measure the height. So I did exactly that. And wondered to myself, why doesn't it fit? And the reason why it doesn't fit, because I forgot to measure the width. So that was rubbish. So we had another go. And this time I was able to actually make it fit. Now, the measurement you need to do is you need to measure the length of your machine from one end to t'other. Let's get the tape measure around the right way. You need to measure the width of your machine. So we're going to add together the width of your machine and make sure it's the proper width. So, look all around it, make certain there's nothing sort of hanging out. Measure the length of your machine and remember the flywheel. These two measurements, when added together, will be the width of the piece of fabric you cut out. You then need the height of your machine. And the height of your machine will, again, allow for any various bits and bobs on the top. The height of your machine is going to be added to half the width measurement. So if your width measurement is 8, the height of your machine is, in this case, 13. You add half of 8, which is 4, to 13. That makes 17. You've now got a length measurement for the fabric and a width measurement for the fabric. To both those measurements, I add an inch. And you might say, oh, why are you adding an inch when it's usually only half an inch? The reason for that is that A, sometimes nothing gets measured quite properly, and B, when you quilt a piece of work, it can contract. Now, I was much happier to have a cover a little bit bigger than to have a cover that's too small. It's a bit difficult trying to stuff a large sewing machine into too small a cover, as I found out. So how are we going to set about doing it? Let me just move that out the way and get rid of my second attempt. Move number 1 is, when you've got your measurements, you will need to cut the oblong of fabric, or indeed it might be the square of fabric. Lay the square of fabric out in front of you. Now, we've got to make a cut in this square or oblong of fabric. I have here it was 26 by 17, my piece of fabric. The width measurement is the most important measurement you need to be aware of, because out of the top corners of your piece of fabric, you are going to cut a square, and the square is half the width measurement. So if you recollect, my width measurement was 8, so the square I cut out is 4 inches. And that is where this little ruler is so amazingly good, because it's neat, it's small enough, and it will cut any size of square up to 6.5 inches. So I have cut 2 squares, 1 from either side. Now you'll need a couple of pieces of fabric, 1 for the front, 1 for the back. So I have 2 pieces of fabric, I have 4 squares left out, which is why, because I've got a whole load of these pieces, if anybody emails in, they may have all these pieces of fabric because I sure don't want them anymore. I've got more than enough fabric in my house. So there's a giveaway. Okay, and it's not much of a giveaway, but there's a giveaway. Once you've cut the corners out, I was then faced with a dilemma. I thought, well, that's all very nice, but hey, I've got that lovely blue fabric and that orange fabric. Surely I could do something with that as well. And how about teaching a bit of applique? So that's when I decided I would show you all how to do something, a reverse applique method. Now, there are many ways of doing reverse applique. There's molar work, where you cut down through the layers. There's a method of doing reverse applique, and if I can find where Tessie Bear went to, there she is, where you actually draw the design on the back on a piece of interfacing, you translate the design from the back to the front, and you gradually add pieces to the front and stitch them down. So you're working technically from the back and finishing off the applique on the front. Now, that's another way of doing reverse applique. We're going to use a very simple technique, but it's actually going to be working from the back. I decided that the heart and the circle templates will be absolutely ideal for doing this. And move number 1, find a bit of paper, was to do a circle. And having drawn a circle, I decided I'd put a heart inside it. So how did I go about doing it? Let's just move this piece out the way. I took an 8.5-inch square of fabric. I folded the 8.5-inch square of fabric in half, pressed the middle and drew a line straight down the centre. It made it much easier when I came to put the circle template on to align the centre line of the circle template with my mark, draw the relevant size of circle, and I had a 7-inch one, flip the circle template over on that mark and draw the other side. What helps as well, and the template allows you to do that, is to put a centre mark in the middle. So if you mark the fabric in the middle as well as draw a line, you will get that centre exact for the circle. Having drawn my circle, flip, flip, 7-inch one, I decided it'd be really rather nice to have the heart in the middle. So again, the centre line was useful. Lay the heart template on top, draw around the heart template, and you can get inside the heart template, inside the lines, with a regular ink pen. Flip the heart template over, working on that centre line, and draw the other side. Now, move number 1 is make very certain that you have drawn these lines on the back of the fabric, the wrong side of the material. And one of the nice things about this method of applique is if I had fouled up and perhaps not drawn it properly, I could always cross it out and redraw it again. I decided that on my cover I'd have a circle and a heart on one side, and because I really love sewing, I'd have just 2 hearts on the other side. And that made life even easier, because all I had to do then was draw a centre line, put my heart template on it, draw 2 half hearts, flip it over and draw another 2 half hearts. There was nothing half-hearted about it, and now you can all laugh. Having got my square of fabric with the lines drawn on it, remember the lines are drawn on the wrong side of the material, it gets placed on the back of one of the pieces of fabric you are using for the sewing machine cover. When you come to place the fabric on the back, just think a little about the position, because remember, your piece of fabric is allowing for the lid of the sewing machine cover, as well as the sides of it. So put it carefully on there. Pin it in place, and what you're going to do then is stitch the outlines. So I stitched round the heart and round the circle. When you come to do this stitching, you will obviously sew it from this side of the fabric. Make certain that you use a very small stitch, round about 1 or 1.5. The reason for this is I want to bond those fabrics together very firmly. Having stitched round the heart and stitched round the outside, turn over, and this is where it can go horribly wrong, so be a little bit careful. You're going to split the 2 layers of fabric. That's the top fabric, the orange flower, and the bottom fabric, the orange blossom. Do not cut through the bottom, but just put a small nick in the top. And then all you're going to do is cut this back, right back to the stitched lines. And you can see now why it was so important to actually have those stitches nice and small, because if you do them big, what happens is the stitching just literally falls away and the fabric falls off. You will be able to cut completely out the circle and indeed the heart. as we have on here's one I did earlier. Now, when you've cut the circle and the heart out, it will pay you to satin stitch over the edge. Now, satin stitching is not difficult to do on any sewing machine, but you will have to have the correct foot. Most machines have a perspex foot, and it's very often the perspex foot that would be the correct foot, sliding, for your sewing machine. And the reason why it's the correct foot is when you turn it over, on the back it has a cutaway section. It's the same on the back of this metal one. You might be able to see this one a little bit more clearly. It doesn't have a flat bottom, it has a cutaway section. And the reason for that is it allows the thick raised stitching to pass cleanly underneath the sewing machine. If you use your regular foot with its flat bottom, it'll jam up, so we have to have the right foot on. Incidentally, for those of you thinking, oh, I got a nice clear acrylic foot, I'll use it all the time, it doesn't sew properly. Now, when it comes to doing satin stitching, what we're going to do is endeavour to get our satin stitching over the edge of the heart stitching and the circle stitching. So I'm going to set my machine for round about sort of mid-range width of satin stitching. When you come to do any form of satin stitching, it'll pay you to put a piece of paper on the back. And the reason for putting a piece of paper on the back is it will stop the fabric from buckling. You could use stitch and tear, or you could use any old piece of paper that you liked. Put the work underneath the sewing machine and set your machine to do satin stitching. Now, I've deliberately put a cream colour thread on here, so hopefully you'll be able to see it more clearly with the cameras. Right. We're going to sew round here, so I've got my machine set for round about the mid-range width of my satin stitch. My stitch length is 0.8. Your stitch length is going to be pretty small because the smaller the stitch length, the closer the stitches. If your stitch length is too long, then all that's going to happen is you're going to get an extended satin stitch and you won't get the lovely smooth appearance. So put the fabric underneath there, lower your presser foot. I like to hand drop my needle in to make certain that I've got it in the right place. And the idea is to get your stitching going into one side of the fabric and over the edge, in and off and in and off. If I turn the machine around a bit more like that, it might help. Once you've got your eye in, so to speak, you want to up the speed. Now, I quite deliberately haven't got this as close as I would like to have it, simply because I'm standing sideways and I don't want it to jam up. But once you've got it there, really up the speed, because you'll get a better stitch out of the machine. Now, I'm just going to come down to the corner here because I want to show you how to turn the corner. When you come to the corner, and I'm going to my left, actually got that correct for once, drop the needle down on the right-hand side, the opposite side from the direction you're going. Raise the presser foot, turn the work round, and you're going to go back over the stitching that you've just done. The trick is the needle stops on the opposite side to the direction you're going to go. Lower presser foot, and what I will very often do is just check with the needle I'm going back into the stitching and not outside the stitching. You then go back over the little bit that you've done. So up that speed again, in, off, in, off, in, off, and all the way round. Now, once you've completed the applique, it's then time to quilt it. And I must confess, this is where I do like the Hobbs wadding. If you're worried about the paper, it will just simply tear away from the back afterwards. And now I've totally ruined my set notes, so first of all, I don't need them anymore. Let's get rid of those. So once we've done our stitching round there, we're then going to place this onto some wadding. And the Hobbs wadding is good. You know, I used to use polyester, and now I'm afraid I'm a fan of this. It quilts well, it's warm, it washes well, it's nice for hand quilting, it's great for garments. And what I particularly like about it is there's no waste because you can join bits together. You are going to mount your sewing machine cover front onto the wadding, and it'll need some form of quilting. Now, we're not putting a back on this, all right, so just the wadding. Your machine will have no problems with that whatsoever. Most machines have rather nice zigzaggy teeth and they don't mind the wadding at all. Test it if you're worried. When you come to do your quilting onto the wadding, though, make your stitch length a little bit longer. And the reason for that is that as you're stitching through a thick layer, the stitch will contract, so you want a little bit longer on the stitch length. What I chose to do when I came to quilt mine was I simply went round the outside of the circle 2 or 3 times, using the edge of the presser foot as a guide. I then did circles going further out and out. And if I turn it over, you can see on the back how the circles went. And that is when I used something called a quilting guide. Now, many of you may have on your sewing machines or in your sewing machine box of bits one of these things. These are what is known as quilting guides. And they slot, attach, screw onto some part of your sewing machine. On this particular machine, it fits in the back like that. The idea being is I can slide it further from or nearer to the needle. All you have to have is a line of stitch to follow or the edge of something, and simply all that will happen is this will go round following the shape. Now there's a catch. The catch is that technically when you come to sew round, and suppose I were going round the circle, the guide only fits on the right-hand side of the machine. Now this can be a pain because it means you've got to push the work through the inside of the machine. So I decided to break the rules and just for this once, because I didn't think it would matter, put the guide on the other side. Now, okay, I know it's behind you, but you could always turn it forwards. And in actual fact, it did work pretty well like that, because I wasn't too fussed about my quilting being 100% on this. It's a sewing machine cover. But it worked relatively well like this. So this end of the guide was able to follow round the line of stitching, and I was then able to stitch with my work going round the right side of the machine. Ordinarily, if I were doing proper quilting and I wanted dead straight lines, I would keep it on the right-hand side and I would push the work slightly through there. The trick is when you're using the guide is you start in the centre. So once we've quilted round this, I turned my attention to the other half, and that's where I used the heart template. So I ended up with my 2 sections, the front or the back of the machine cover. It's reversible. At that point in time, I cut the lining out. And you might say, why didn't I cut the lining out in the first place? The reason for that is that sometimes your quilting caddy, your cover top, contracts. Therefore, it was a bit silly to cut the lining out and then have to trim bits off. So I used my quilted covers as a template to cut the lining. The lining is cut in exactly the same way, and again, that little 6.5-inch square was great for cutting out the corners. So I had the lining, I had the sewing machine cover. How do you put it together? Well, this is where we now have to swap to these small pieces because I only had 2 meters of the fabric. The way to put it together is to join your covers on, let's say, the shoulder seams. Now, my sewing machine, and indeed this one, has a handle. So when I came to join it on the shoulder seams, so to speak, I left a gap for the handle. I measured the gap and I left it. Now, it doesn't tell you this in your instruction because this is an add-on, because I thought of this afterwards. What would have been much more sensible was, having joined the 2 pieces together, would be to press the seam open and flat. And this is where something like the clover iron would have been brilliant, to press that seam open and flat, because you only want to press the seam. Remember, this is wadding. You don't want to press the wadding too much. If you press the seam open and flat, you could then just literally top stitch either side just to hold that nice and flat, and it would be much easier when you come to stitch the lining in. So you join the thing on the shoulder seams. Let's get rid of that. When you've joined it on the shoulder seams, you join up the sides. And this is where this neat cutout now comes into play. If we take the cutout and open it out, we can bring the opposite seams together, all right? A bit like a big mouth. What do you think it shows so far? Rubbish. It would be brilliant if your seams lined up. It would be really nice if they were open and flat. All you're now going to do is to sew across the top there. Now, I know I've got the wrong foot on. Please don't copy this at home. It's just simply because it makes it easier rather than change the foot. So I'm going to sew right across the top. I'd love you to keep those seams together open and flat. I better practice what I preach and open mine on the back here. I can't get my fingernails in. Just talk amongst yourselves when I fiddle it. That's it. There we go. Right, and you're going to sew straight across there. There we go. Remove that from there. And what this action does is it makes the top of the cover. It's like sort of the sleeve, the shelf that goes across the top. If you do that on both sides, you will end up with something that looks a little bit like this. And there's the hole for my handle. You do exactly the same thing with the outside. So this represents the outside of the caddy. So this is the lovely orangey one with my hearts on. You then put one inside t'other. So if you take the outside of your caddy, I like to have this right side out. So this is the outside of my caddy. You drop it into the lining. There we go. Having dropped it into the lining, pin the layers together and you sew round the entire thing. Let me just very quickly sew round the entire thing. Let's take that thing out for now. Right, so I'm going to up my stitch length to absolute maximum. This is going to be, you would of course do it properly, but just because you're thinking, how is she going to turn it through? Pinning would be beautiful, please just don't go for it. Matching seams up would be even nicer. So anyone who's just tuning in, know this is only me showing you roughly. I don't usually sew A sideways and B at this speed, or so badly. Well, sometimes I do. And now back to where I started this. And then you turn it through, my friends, by turning it through the hole at the top. And when you've turned it through the hole at the top, all you will do then is to tuck the lining inside the cover like that. And that is where you will be so much happier because you'll have done that special little bit of stitching round the top. All you have to do then is literally sew the lining to the outer cover round where the handle goes. Now you might say, oh, but I haven't got a handle on my sewing machine. Don't worry. Leave the same hole, but leave the hole in the lining only. You can still turn it through the hole in the lining. Once you've turned it through, all I did then was to top stitch round the outside. Now, this particular way of measuring can be used for absolutely anything, and I used exactly the same way of measuring for the caddy. So we can just briefly come over to the caddy. Here is the caddy. And on the caddy, because I literally didn't have time, I haven't quilted it. And I didn't really see there was the need for quilting it. I just wanted something to cover up the caddy to primarily stop the grandchildren from getting at all the boxes when they come to play. They can wheel it round happily, but they needn't play with all the boxes. Now, the caddy, you will appreciate, has not only a carrying handle, but it's also got the pulling handle. And so I had to make a hole to put the pulling handle through. All I did was construct the caddy cover exactly the same way as I did the sewing machine. I measured the height, I measured the width, I measured the depth of it, and I put the cover on and then just marked where the handle went. Cut a slit, because the handle being fairly thick, there was enough room if I just cut a straight slit across to turn the raw edges over, which gave me a big enough hole to fit the handle in. So it was not difficult to get that to fit. But my main word of warning is put the caddy cover on. I don't think I can get at this from that angle. Drop the handle down and then mark where the handle is. Think about it before you cut. I found it was roughly about 4 inches from the handle hole itself to where the start of the toting handle, the pulling handle actually went. So caddy cover could be made, but I promised you a tea cosy. So back to the tea cosy. This collection of patterns that we have here with the e-readers, the phone covers, everything else, really are very useful. And these days, Simplicity have upped their game and they give you far more than just the pattern. You get a lot of words. Now, I was looking at this appliance cover pattern, and you've got all these various different appliances on here, and I thought what I really need is a tea cosy. And I reckon that I could do a tea cosy using my method of stitching rather than having to bind it. Of course, there's no reason why you can't bind it, it just takes a little bit longer. Full instructions are in there. So here is the tea cosy. How are you going to do it? Well, first of all, you'll need to cut out the pattern, and in here you will find there is the pattern for the tea cosy. So extract the pattern. The tea cosy will need 2 pieces of fabric, one for either side, the front side and the back side. It needs 2 bits of wadding. The Hobbs wadding is fantastic. It needs 2 pieces of lining. And I thought, really, what I really want is a nice-looking tea cosy cover. I'm going to do something called broderie purse. And the orange fabric, and indeed the purple fabric, lent itself to doing broderie purse. What is broderie purse, you might say to yourself? Broderie purse is the cutting out of specific little flowers. You do end up, it is a bit fabric wasteful, so you do end up with a bit of a messy fabric. But basically what happens is you want to take your fusible glue web, and we do have fusible glue web on the internet. Lay a piece of the fusible glue web on the back of the flower you're going to cut out, or the leaf. Make sure the glue web is slightly bigger than the flower. Then all you do then is on the right side is cut it out carefully. Now, what I would suggest you do is you do a bit of pruning. You don't want to have sharp points, you don't want to have a blob, so cut it out carefully. We want it to look interesting enough without being too difficult to stitch round. How I then did the cover was I took my outer fabric, put it onto the wadding, and I was going to stick the flowers on top and machine apply them down, and that's what I did. And then I thought, because you are Nana, Jennifer, what would be much better, and it does say this in the instructions, is to actually quilt the cover to the wadding first. That will be so much more sensible. Then I can put the flowers on top, then I can apply them, and I haven't got the problem of what do I do with my quilting, maybe my starts and my stops, because all my starts and stops will be buried in the end. So if you quilt the background first and then put the flowers on top, you haven't got any problem. It's a done deal. Once you're ready to put the flowers on the top tip is remove the paper from the back. If you leave the paper on the back, you get it beautifully arranged, and then, of course, it's no good. You've got to move it off to get the paper off. So take paper off back, lay the pieces in place, arrange them however you happen to fancy them. So let's move that out of the way. And here we have one where I've laid them on and arranged them. I decided it needed leaves, so that is where the leaf template was really useful. And that leaf template gave me a variety of different leaves. And the nice thing about this leaf template was it was easy to apply. When it came to doing the applique, you work the applique from the leaf or the thing that is furthest away. The leaves are under the flowers. So I actually did the leaves first. Now you might notice there's a thread lying across here, deliberate. Because when I did round that leaf, I jumped from here to there. I carried the thread with me, because that meant I didn't get the sort of the bird's nest underneath. Remember, you want to tie off your stitching there and tie off your stitching here. So jumping, taking the threads with you, and of course you have to cut them off afterwards. Once you've done all the outside leaves, then you work on the flowers in the middle. This stitching could be done with a buttonhole stitch, it could be done with a small zigzag. The choice is yours, but you gradually build up and build up. So I thought I'll have flowers on one side, and then I looked at the template and thought, we've got butterflies. And so this was using the curvy heart template. And literally I used the heart template for the wings, because one heart there and one heart there. And then I was really smart because I used a smaller heart. You have no idea of how long this took me to cut these out. Smaller heart template to make the inner wings. And I basically laid down the butterfly's wings, put the body in the middle. And the body is formed from the thin leaf template. So you can see, we can muddle up with the barbecue skewer there, how very useful these templates are. You saw my skirt, and those of you who've only just tuned in now, tough, you missed out on seeing me stand on the stool with Dean holding my hand and show my skirt. Put these down and zigzag round the edge. Now, to put the tea cosy together, you will need a front and a back, so let's get rid of all the extraneous rubbish. And it wants a tab. All right, the little tab is nothing more than, say, a 4 1/4 inch strip of fabric. I iron the sides to the middle, and that is where the clover iron is absolutely cracking. Press it with the clover iron. Gets into all those little nooks and crannies. Fold it in half and top stitch either side. The tab is then put on the top of the tea cosy, going downwards into it. Stitch it on. You then put the two halves together, so right side to wrong side, so right the way round the entire thing. On the lining, you sew right the way round the entire thing, but you leave a hole. You've got to turn it through. And all we simply do then is we drop the lining into the tea cosy, we stitch all the way around the bottom, and then you turn it through. And before I give this to my stepdaughter, it might be quite a good idea for me to remember to sew up the hole in the lining. The number of times I've given a gift away, oh, have this bag, have this cover. It will be marvellous, and then told them you have to stitch the hole up in the bottom. So there you go. That is how to make a sewing machine cover. That is how you could make a tea cosy cover using the simplicity patterns, and indeed any of the other things you can arrange. And the fabric, I have to say, is absolutely fabulous. So there you go, Ardeen.
Jenny,
Excuse the mess on the floor. Okay, clear it out of the way.
I've come in with all the messages of love.
Love?
Yes.
Oh, that's good.
For you.
Oh, that's nice.
And there's one here from Esther.
Hang on, I've just got to tell you. You read out Esther's while I find this.
She said, hi, Jenny D and the crew. This is a table runner I made. She's in Cambridge. Look at the table runner that Esther's made. Look.
Oh, brilliant. Oh, look, it's
Look at the chicken in the middle.
Yes, it's absolutely fantastic. Those are designs from the Foldy Roldy book.
I like that.
Yes,
That's
yes,
nice. Let's do another one. Thank you, Esther. Carol, who's in Port Glennon.
Yes.
Just up the road. I don't know. I can't read without my glasses. I've got to take them off. Hi, Jenny and Dean and all the Sunday crew.
Hello. Hello.
That's all the Sunday crew. I set my alarm so that I wouldn't miss this great show. Jenny, I love the way you bring us all your fantastic hints and tips on sewing. You are so full of life and always make me laugh. The prices are always great. I've attached a couple of pics of my cushions. Keep up the great demos. Here's the cushions from Carol.
Oh, well done.
Carol Shingleton. That
is
nice.
lovely. I like that. And that's even beautiful too.
That's even more beautiful.
See, that's more beautiful. I think she's got a cover to something.
They're those sort of standout cushions, aren't they?
You don't rest your head on that or put your feet on it either.
And this is from Christine in Somerset. She said, good morning to Jenny and Dean and all the crew. My favourite show of the month, Quilting Classroom. I learned so much. I'm loving the floral fabric. I can see it ending up with holes all over as I fussy cut and applique it, she said. I love that. Another one here from Susan. Susan says, please find attached a photo of my first quilt made for a friend's first baby. Let's look at that first before I carry on. I'll read.
Oh, that's
It came
wonderful.
out at 40 inches square and was made using nothing more than complicated a long ruler, a rotary cutter and a mat.
Well
I
done,
even made
you.
the binding double fold. How about that then?
Excellent.
I'm really proud of myself and my friend is delighted. The only really hairy part was layering up the backing, wadding on top.
Yeah,
But the heirloom iron fusible wadding was excellent.
Yes.
And it made it simpler. I had not appreciated how much of it there was on the roll. Thank you, Jenny. Without seeing your demonstrations and products on Crate Craft, I would not even attempted this.
Well, that's brilliant.
Now,
Brilliant.
that's why we're here and that's why we love it.
I've
got one more.
One more.
Hang on.
Go on.
Then it's yours.
Go on.
Janet from Howsham. She says, would like to thank Jenny for giving me advice last Sunday and for signing her book for me. Love all your shows. There you go.
Thank you.
What have you got there, then?
Right, well, what I've got, I had a really nice card. I'll show you the card. And this card was from Carolyn, and she was really very complimentary about me. I shan't tell you what it was, but
Shall I read it?
I'd like to say thank you to Carolyn from Case and Esther. No, you're not going to read it. And this... I don't like to have my trumpet blown. Actually, we should blow my trumpet.
Well, I do.
I'm wonderful, marvellous, and the world's only twiddler, fiddler, nipper, tucker, manipulator, and manoeuvre material. And this one is from Evelyn in Ringwood. And Evelyn Ringwood is suffering from not such good sight as she ought to do.
OK, Evelyn.
But she is still doing the twiddling and fiddling good because she can see the lumps and bumps. So thank you all of you out there, because without you all, I wouldn't be the person that I am. So there you go.
It's true, though. We're all the same, though, aren't we?
I really treasure those.
All these years, because you think I could think back all the years,
Yeah.
and when I get letters, and especially when people handwrite, and I get handwritten letters all the time, they're the ones I treasure.
I keep them.
I do. I've got them in my dressing room, in my cupboard. Don't think that they go in the bin. They don't. They go in my cupboard.
And when I have a bad day, I get them
Jenny, you took the words out of my mouth.
Yes.
I'll have a quick flick.
It wasn't that bad.
Somebody
loved me somewhere.
No, but honestly, absolutely right thing to say. Thank you so much for input. And don't think that by putting a little email together or a letter that it goes unmissed. It doesn't. It really doesn't. Because one thing about craft I've always noticed, and since I've been back, and 5.5 years or so now, is how many wonderful people there are.
Yes, there
aren't
are.
there? Some
there
lovely
are.
people.
Yep.
And everyone shares, and we have a laugh and a joke, but generally, at the end of the day, everyone gets on.
Yes.
And it's very rare in this time, in the life and the world we live in right now, people getting on. Craft people do. And we like that, and we love that. Keep watching. We've still got so much more to show you. Jenny, when you back, my darling, do you know?
I'm back tomorrow afternoon at 3 o'clock.
I can't wait for that.
With the lovely Dave.
Because I'm here. The lovely Dave.
Natasha.
And Natasha, yes, because our lovely new Natasha.
Yes.
I've got a couple of hours with Natasha.
She is super.
Have you noticed the last person they've put her on with?
I'm
and
not
I did some
surprised.
training, and do you know the first piece of advice I gave her?
What was that?
For coming to TV home shopping, I said, don't do anything I do, and you'll be fine.
We discussed you at our training day, you see.
Oh, did you?
Yes, and she was told to copy me. No, she wasn't. She was warned, please don't be like Raymond, because Raymond is a loose cannon, and we never know what she's going to do, you see.
A loose cannon with a short fuse. Hey?
You see?
Exactly.
All right.
So you think this job's easy, don't you? You think you sit home and think all he does is talk for a living. No, I have to keep this wild thing
under control.
Under control.
Yes.
Okay then. How long we got? 2 minutes.
2 minutes.
Let's do another 2 minutes.
We can do. Actually, what we could do is talk about things on the wall because.
Do you want to do that?
Yes.
This is your show. You tell us about it. Now,
okay.
let me just move this out of the way because I don't want any accidents.
Right, basically, going back to embroidery purse again, would you like to pass me the orange?
That was my floor manager.
Do you know I get asked so many times, what do I do with the stuff on the floor?
Shall I show you?
Who picks it up?
Yeah. All these are young men's trousers again, Jenny. Oh, can't bend down. I don't know you having a sneaky peek there. Look, this is it all ends up.
Well, that's tidy for once.
It is quite
Usually it's
tidy.
many more bits. OK, talking about going back to this embroidery purse. Well, all that is a design that I did called Crossing Over the Tucks. And in the windows are cut out, literally, flowers. And it's nothing more than taking a piece of fabric, say like this one, cutting out the flowers, laying them down and putting a piece of net on top. The net is then stitched down in place. So that is, again,
I can see it now.
embroidery
Yeah,
purse.
that's beautiful.
Embroidery purse gets its name from the embroidered robes way back in Persian days when they had fantastic robes, heavy embroideries. The robes got holes in, a bit like my skirt, but the embroideries didn't wear out. So they'd take them off the robe,
and use them again.
put them somewhere else.
Upcycling.
Embroidery being
Back in those
absolutely,
days.
see, been around for thousands of years.
Upcycling's been around for thousands of years.
So there again you've got the same idea, embroidery purse, where you've taken them and stuck them onto a garment, bonded them down.
What sort of netting is that? Is it something
Just
I can buy in the
regular netting,
regular stuff in the
just
store?
ordinary fine netting from
Lovely,
any dressmaker
okay.
shop.
What
Hearts and things using the heart template, do that. And then over here we've got the frock, again more embroidery purse there.
Oh,
and the frock.
hang on. Biff, can you get us over there? Because we've got about a minute. I've got to show you the frock and then I've got to do the cup of chance.
Yes, so I've got, again, your embroidery purse on there.
Beautiful.
So the flowers from here would work. Where's the cup of chance? Who's going to earn all those lovely scraps of fabric? You can do something with them.
Floweth over as it always does on a Sunday morning with Jenny.
I often have the one in the end. I'm going to have the one right at the very beginning.
Right at the very beginning.
Oh,
So who is that then? Who's the one? Sorry, whoever that was.
Right, it is going to...
Maureen Mullally. Maureen Mullally in Manchester. There you go. I hope I pronounced that right. If I haven't, I apologise. Bits and pieces from Jenny Raymond.
Yes,
Ladies and
back
gentlemen.
in August.
Jenny Raymond back in August for another classroom. But tomorrow doing what?
3 o'clock. Simplicity. It's perfect patchwork.
Perfect patchwork with Jenny Raymond and Mr. Dave Bradford, who's coming up at 10. But I've got next